Welcome to the Stoic Tide. What if I told you that the greatest secret to peace, power, and purpose has nothing to do with controlling the world around you, but everything to do with mastering the world within you? Imagine this for a moment. Emperors, soldiers, slaves, and philosophers, people who lived in times of chaos, plagues, invasions, and betrayals. Yet many of them found unshakable calm. They did not find it by changing circumstances, but by changing themselves. This is the very essence of Stoic philosophy, and it is why the message I'm about to share with you can completely transform the way you see your life. Because when you learn to focus on yourself, when you learn to build strength from within, everything else begins to fall into place naturally. Think of Marcus Aurelius, a man who was not only emperor of Rome, but also a thinker, a writer, and someone who lived in the eye of the storm. His empire was constantly under threat, enemies at the gates, a plague ravaging his people, political conspiracies around every corner. And yet his journal, the words we now read as meditations, does not speak of hatred, revenge, or despair. Instead, it speaks of patience, discipline, and acceptance. Why? Because Marcus understood one thing. We cannot control the world, but we can always control ourselves. That is the Stoic path. And that is the path you and I can still walk today. This is not a philosophy of abstract theories or empty ideas. Stoicism is practical, raw, and direct. It is a guide for living. Epictetus, born a slave, once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And this is exactly what you will discover in this video. Today, I will share with you 10 powerful Stoic lessons that can help you stop wasting energy on things you cannot control, and instead invest that energy in the only thing that truly belongs to you: your own mind, your own actions, your own character. And here is the promise. By the time you finish this journey, you will see your problems, your struggles, and even your pain through a completely different lens. You will realize that focusing on yourself is not selfishness, it is wisdom. Because only when you are strong within can you face the storms of life without being destroyed by them. These are not lessons that will demand you to change the entire world. They are lessons that will demand you to change your perspective. And once your perspective changes, everything else begins to align in ways you never thought possible. But let me give you a warning. These 10 lessons are not meant for passive listening. They are meant to be practiced, tested, and lived. The Stoics believed that philosophy was not something to talk about, but something to apply every single day. As Seneca wrote, philosophy teaches us to act, not to speak. So I invite you not just to hear these teachings, but to put them into action starting from today. Because transformation begins not with listening, but with doing. And here is something to keep in mind. Stay with me until the very end, because the last teaching, the 10th lesson, is perhaps the most powerful, the one that Marcus Aurelius himself turned to in his darkest moments. It is a truth that has survived centuries, and if you embrace it, it can become the foundation of your strength. No matter what storms come your way, you don't want to miss it. Now, before we dive into these timeless lessons, I want to invite you to engage with me in a very simple way. Stoicism is not about passive reflection. It is about active participation. So here is my challenge for you. When you hear a phrase that strikes you, when you feel one of these teachings resonate deep within, I want you to pause and write in the comments the phrase "control yourself." It is a simple reminder, a short command, but a powerful one. By writing those 2 words, you are already practicing the Stoic discipline of turning inward, of reclaiming your power, and of focusing only on what truly belongs to you. So let us begin this journey together. Prepare yourself to walk the path of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca. Prepare yourself to unlearn the distractions of the world and return to the essence of strength. Because when you learn to focus on yourself, when you train your mind to remain calm, disciplined, and unshakable, then and only then everything else in life will begin to fall into place. This is not just philosophy. This is a way of life, and it is waiting for you to claim it. Lesson 10. Accept the things you cannot control. When Marcus Aurelius sat down at the end of long, exhausting days as emperor, he often reminded himself of one simple truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This idea, perhaps the most powerful of all Stoic teachings, is the foundation upon which the entire philosophy rests. To focus on yourself and watch everything fall into place begins with acceptance. Acceptance that there are things in life beyond your command, and that peace comes only when you stop wrestling against them. Think about your own life for a moment. How much time have you spent wishing that people would change, How many hours have you lost in anger over circumstances that you had no ability to alter? How often have you replayed events in your mind, desperately hoping reality could have been different? Each of us has wasted days, even years in this struggle. The Stoics saw it clearly. It is not the events themselves that torment us, but our resistance to them. Epictetus, born into slavery, could have lived his entire life in bitterness. His body was broken by a cruel master, leaving him crippled for life. And yet he rose to become one of the greatest teachers of philosophy. Why? Because he refused to let his mind be chained by what his body and his circumstances could not change. He taught that the first task of the philosopher is to draw a line between what is within our power, our thoughts, our choices, our actions, and what is not, other people, fortune, accidents, and death. If we confuse the two, we guarantee misery. If we see the line clearly, we unlock freedom. Consider how often modern life tests this lesson. You're stuck in traffic and the frustration rises in your chest. But does your anger move the cars any faster? A storm cancels your flight and all your carefully laid plans fall apart. But does shouting at the sky change the weather? A friend betrays your trust and the pain is real. But does replaying the betrayal alter their choice? The Stoics remind us again and again, no, these things are not within your command. The only thing you can shape is how you respond. This acceptance is not weakness. It is not resignation. It is clarity. When you accept that the world will not bend to your will, you stop scattering your strength in 1,000 directions. You reclaim that energy, and you direct it inward. You use it to discipline your reactions, to act with virtue, to endure with dignity. And paradoxically, when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you gain greater influence over your life than you ever imagined. Think of the calm person in a crisis, the one who keeps a steady voice while everyone else panics. That calm does not come from controlling the storm. It comes from refusing to let the storm control them. This is what Marcus Aurelius practiced daily. Surrounded by war, disease, and betrayal, he repeated to himself, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them." To live by this lesson is to embrace serenity. Imagine how different your life would feel if you stopped expecting the world to obey your desires. Imagine the weight lifted from your shoulders if you could truly say, "This is not mine to control, so I release it." In that moment, you step into freedom. This is the 10th lesson because it is both the simplest and the hardest. Simple because the line between what we control and what we do not is clear. Hard because our hearts still want to grasp the world and force it into submission. But remember this, the storms of life are not asking for your permission. They will come and go whether you resist or not. The choice you have is whether to drown in your resistance or to find peace in acceptance. So as we begin this journey through the Stoic path, hold on to this truth. Accept the things you cannot control and focus only on the strength of your own mind. In that focus, everything else begins to fall into place. Lesson 9, master your reactions. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." The Stoics understood that while events may strike us from the outside, the true battlefield is within our own mind. Life will present difficulties, insults, losses, and pains. But the meaning of those events, whether they destroy us or strengthen us, depends entirely on how we choose to react. To focus on yourself and watch everything fall into place requires this inner mastery. Without it, you are tossed about by every external blow. With it, you become unshakable. Imagine walking through the marketplace of ancient Rome. A stranger bumps into you roughly, spilling wine on your cloak. Do you lash out, cursing the man, escalating conflict in front of everyone? Or do you breathe, remember that accidents happen, and continue on with dignity? The event itself is neutral. It is your reaction that gives it the power to disturb your peace. And the same is true today. Whether it is a rude driver, a critical coworker, or a family argument, the situation is far less important than the story you tell yourself about it and the reaction you allow yourself to take. Epictetus compared life to a play. You do not control the script, the other actors, or the length of the performance. You control only how you play your role. If someone insults you, it is as if a fellow actor delivers a line. The line itself cannot harm you unless you step out of character and forget your purpose. Your purpose is to act with reason,
with virtue and with composure. By mastering your reaction, you remain true to your role no matter how chaotic the scene around you becomes. Think of the people you admire most in your own life. Chances are they are not the ones who lose control in anger, panic, or despair. They are the ones who remain calm in chaos, who keep steady when others collapse. Why do we admire them? Because they show us what real strength looks like. Not the strength to control everything, but the strength to control themselves. This mastery does not mean suppression. The Stoics did not teach us to deny our emotions or pretend they do not exist. Rather, they taught us to pause, to examine, and to choose our response deliberately. Anger will rise, fear will appear, grief will visit. These are natural, but you are not required to act blindly under their command. Marcus Aurelius practiced this discipline every day. He reminded himself, "You have power over your mind. Externally, nothing can harm you. But if you lose control of your reactions, you harm yourself." Consider a modern example. You receive a harsh email at work. Your pulse quickens, your chest tightens, your mind fills with retorts. At this moment, you have two paths. One is to react instantly, to reply with sharp words that may damage relationships and your own reputation. The other is to step back, breathe, and wait until clarity returns. By choosing the second, you demonstrate mastery not over the other person, but over yourself. That mastery protects your peace and keeps your integrity intact. The Stoics believed that this inner mastery is not only a defense, but also a form of freedom. If no one can force you to act in ways you do not choose, then no one can truly enslave your spirit. They can insult you, but you are free not to be insulted. They can harm your body, but you are free to choose courage. They can take away possessions, but you are free to practice detachment. This is why Epictetus, though once a slave, was freer in spirit than many emperors. Training this mastery is a lifelong practice. It begins with awareness, catching yourself in the moment before you react. It continues with discipline, reminding yourself of what truly matters and what does not. And it deepens with repetition. Each time you choose calm over chaos, you strengthen the habit of mastery. Over time, this becomes your nature. You no longer need to wrestle with anger because you have taught your mind to respond with reason. To master your reactions is to hold the key to peace. Without this mastery, even the smallest insult can disturb your day. With it, even great misfortunes cannot rob you of your dignity. Marcus Aurelius faced conspiracies, betrayals, and the collapse of armies. Yet his writings show a steady hand, a calm tone. He knew the truth. The world will test you, but your reaction defines you. So let this lesson sink deeply. Focus not on what others do, not on what fortune brings, but on how you respond. In this lies your power. In this lies your freedom. And when you master your reactions, you will discover that everything else in life begins to align. Not because the world changes, but because you are unshaken by it. Lesson 8. Nature. The Stoics often repeated a phrase that sounds simple but contains a depth of wisdom that can reshape your entire life. Live according to nature. At first, this may sound vague or even outdated. What does it mean to live according to nature in a world of skyscrapers, digital screens, and artificial lights? But when we examine it closely, we see that this lesson speaks directly to our deepest struggles today. To live according to nature is to align yourself with reality, as it is, not as you wish it to be. It is to understand your place in the world, your role as a human being, and to live in harmony with reason, virtue, and the natural order of life. For Marcus Aurelius, living according to nature meant remembering that he was not just an emperor, but also a man, a mortal creature subject to sickness, aging, and death, like everyone else. He reminded himself daily that he was a part of the larger whole, that he existed not to indulge in selfish pleasures, but to serve, to contribute, and to live with justice. What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee, he wrote, teaching himself that his nature was not isolated, but connected. In our modern lives, this lesson is more important than ever. So much of our suffering comes from resisting nature. We demand that life be easy, but nature has given us challenge. We demand that others always treat us kindly, but nature has given us a world of unpredictable personalities. We demand permanence, but nature has built everything to change, to age, and to pass away. To live according to nature is to stop fighting these truths and to start flowing with them. Think of a river. If you jump into it and fight against the current, you exhaust yourself and make no progress. But if you accept the flow and align yourself with it, you move forward with ease. Life is the same. Illness, aging, setbacks, and loss are part of nature's current. Fighting them does not stop them. It only drains your spirit. Acceptance, on the other hand, allows you to move with grace. Seneca warned often against resisting what is natural. He said, "Fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling." In other words, you can either walk in step with reality or be dragged by it in pain. How many times in your own life have you been dragged, holding on to relationships long after they had ended, resisting change at work only to be forced into it anyway, clinging to youth while time moves steadily forward. These struggles are not caused by life itself, but by our refusal to live according to nature. But the Stoics also meant something deeper. Living according to nature is not only about accepting external events. It is also about living up to your own human nature. And what is the nature of a human being? The Stoics believed it is to use reason, to act with virtue, to live as a social being in harmony with others. When we betray this nature, when we live in selfishness, cruelty, or ignorance, we tear ourselves apart. When we honor this nature, when we live with courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom, we find peace. In practical terms, this means asking yourself daily, am I living in line with what I was made for? Am I using my reason to guide my choices, or am I ruled by impulses? Am I acting with justice, or am I harming others for my own gain? Am I practicing self-control, or am I letting desires rule me? These questions root you in your true nature. They remind you that you are not here to consume endlessly, to argue aimlessly, or to chase shallow pleasures. You are here to live as a rational, virtuous social being. Modern life tempts us to forget this. We are told that happiness comes from possessions, from status, from indulgence. But none of these align with nature. They are artificial distractions. This is why so many people feel empty even when they seem to have it all. The Stoics remind us that fulfillment comes not from resisting nature, but from returning to it. Living simply, living justly, living with awareness that we are part of something greater. Living according to nature also means accepting impermanence. Everything changes. Everything ends. The seasons teach us this. Every year spring blooms, summer flourishes, autumn fades, and winter strips everything bare. Human life is the same. To resist this is to invite endless grief. To accept it is to find beauty in each moment, knowing that it is part of the natural cycle. Marcus Aurelius reflected often on this truth, reminding himself that he too would soon be gone, just like the emperors before him. Far from depressing him, this gave him clarity. It urged him to use his short time to live well. So what does this lesson mean for you today? It means aligning yourself with reality instead of demanding that reality align with you. It means recognizing your own human nature and striving to live with reason and virtue. It means embracing change instead of resisting it. And it means remembering that you are part of something larger than yourself. And your duty is not only to yourself but also to the whole. To live according to nature is to live free. Free from the chains of unrealistic expectations. Free from the torment of fighting against what must be. Free from the illusions that society sells us. It is to walk in step with the world as it truly is, and in doing so to discover peace. Lesson 7. Embrace adversity as training. The Stoics did not pray for an easy life. They did not ask the gods to remove obstacles from their path. Instead, they trained themselves to see every difficulty as an opportunity to grow stronger. To them, adversity was not an enemy, but a teacher, not a punishment, but a form of training for the soul. Marcus Aurelius expressed this clearly. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is one of the most radical and liberating lessons of Stoic philosophy. Imagine if instead of shrinking from problems, you welcome them as exercises for your mind. Imagine if every insult became a chance to practice patience, every loss a chance to practice detachment, every setback a chance to practice resilience. This is what it means to embrace adversity as training. Think of a soldier preparing for battle. He does not grow stronger by sitting in comfort. He grows stronger by facing challenges, lifting heavy burdens, enduring pain, and testing his limits. Life works the same way. Without adversity, our character remains weak, untested, and fragile. With adversity, we develop the inner muscles of courage, endurance, and wisdom. Seneca warned against wishing for a life without hardship. He said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. If you avoid struggle, you avoid growth. If you hide from pain, you hide from strength." The very difficulties you fear are the ones that can shape you into the person you were meant to become. Consider your own experiences. Look back at the hardest moments of your life. The failures, the heartbreaks, the losses. Were they pleasant? No. Did they test you? Absolutely. But are you not stronger, wiser, and more resilient because of them? Many people, when asked to name their turning points in life, point not to moments of ease, but to moments of struggle. It was in those moments that they discovered their true capacity. Epictetus, who endured slavery and disability, urged his students to see hardship as material for virtue. If life gave them pain, it was material for endurance. If life gave them injustice, it was material for justice. If life gave them fear, it was material for courage. To him, the world was like a training ground, and each difficulty was a weight placed on the soul to make it stronger. In modern life, we often fall into the trap of comfort. We seek convenience, ease, and safety at every turn, but comfort breeds weakness. If we never challenge ourselves, even small problems overwhelm us. This is why so many people break down over trivial inconveniences. They have never trained for hardship. The Stoics remind us to welcome struggle not as something to be feared, but as something to be embraced. This does not mean you should seek out suffering for its own sake. The Stoics did not glorify pain. What they taught was that when pain comes, as it inevitably will, you must meet it with the right mindset. Instead of saying, "Why me?" say, "Why not me? Here is my chance to prove my strength." Instead of asking for a lighter burden, train yourself to carry a stronger back. Marcus Aurelius himself lived through plague, war, and betrayal. He could have complained endlessly, but instead he trained his mind to see each difficulty as part of his duty. Every night in his journal he reminded himself that life was not meant to be easy. He saw each obstacle as material for the practice of virtue. And this is why his words still inspire us centuries later, because he lived what he wrote. Imagine how different your life would feel if you adopted this perspective. Instead of fearing adversity, you would welcome it. Instead of breaking under pressure, you would grow from it. Instead of asking life to spare you from storms, you would train yourself to become the storm. This is the strength the Stoics cultivated, a strength available to you as well. So the next time life challenges you, pause and remind yourself, this is training. This pain is polishing me. This obstacle is shaping me. The more you embrace adversity as training, the stronger you become. And when you focus on strengthening yourself in this way, everything else in life begins to fall into place. Lesson 6, detach from desire. One of the most dangerous traps of the human mind is desire, the endless craving for more, the constant hunger for what we do not yet have. The Stoics saw this clearly. They understood that unchecked desire chains us to disappointment, because the moment we gain what we crave, the satisfaction fades and new cravings rise again. Seneca warned us, "It is not the man who's too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." To focus on yourself and watch everything fall into place, you must learn the discipline of detachment from desire. This does not mean rejecting all pleasure or abandoning all ambition. The Stoics were not ascetics hiding in caves. They believed in enjoying life's gifts, but only in moderation and never as slaves to them. The lesson is not to eliminate desire completely, but to master it so that you possess your desires rather than letting your desires possess you. Think about how desire works in modern life. You want a new phone, a new car, a bigger house. You convince yourself that once you have it, you will finally be content. And for a brief moment you are. But soon the shine wears off and your mind begins to crave the next thing. This is the cycle of desire, an endless treadmill that never allows rest. The Stoics saw it for what it is, a trap that steals our peace. Epictetus taught his students to practice a simple exercise. When you desire something, pause and remind yourself that it is not truly yours. The object, the outcome, the recognition, all of it lies outside your complete control. You may gain it or you may not. And if your happiness depends on it, then your happiness is chained to fortune. But if you detach, if you say to yourself, "I will enjoy it if it comes, but I do not need it to live well," then you are free. Detachment from desire also means training your mind to see abundance in what you already have. Seneca urged his students to practice gratitude, to remind themselves daily of the wealth already within reach. It is not the man who has little, but the man who longs for more that is poor. Woody, when you look around and realize that you already have food, shelter, friendships, and the capacity to think and act, you begin to see how rich you truly are. Desire loses its grip when gratitude takes its place. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about the danger of being ruled by desire. As emperor, he had access to immense wealth and power, yet he lived simply. He reminded himself that luxury is fragile, that it distracts from virtue, and that it never leads to true fulfillment. What he valued most was not possessions but character, the ability to remain calm, just, and disciplined regardless of external circumstances. In modern terms, this lesson invites us to step back from consumer culture. Everywhere we turn, advertisements tell us we are lacking, that we need more to be complete. But the Stoic answer is clear. You do not need more. You need less desire. You need to free yourself from the illusion that happiness lies in the next purchase, the next promotion, the next achievement. Happiness lies in mastering yourself, not in acquiring more things. This does not mean abandoning ambition. The Stoics valued purposeful work and meaningful goals. but they distinguished between healthy ambition, guided by reason and virtue, and unhealthy desire driven by greed and vanity. You can strive to improve yourself, to serve others, and to fulfill your potential without being enslaved by craving. Psyche is to pursue goals with effort, but to release the need for outcomes beyond your control. Detachment from desire also prepares us for loss. Everything we possess is temporary. Our wealth, our health, our relationships, all of it can be taken away in an instant. If we cling to them as if they were permanent, we invite despair when they vanish. But if we practice detachment, we enjoy them fully while they last, and we let them go with grace when nature demands it. As Epictetus said, "When you kiss your child, say to yourself, 'Tomorrow he matey.'" This was not cruelty. It was clarity. 'Twas a reminder to love without clinging, to enjoy without enslaving your heart to what must eventually pass. To detach from desire is to claim freedom. Imagine no longer being tormented by cravings you cannot satisfy. Imagine no longer being ruled by envy when others have what you do not. Imagine being able to enjoy the simplest pleasures, food, friendship, nature, without needing anything more. This is the freedom the Stoics promise. So the next time you feel the pull of desire, pause. Ask yourself, will this truly make me freer? Will it bind me tighter? Choose instead to focus on what is already within you. Your character, your reason, your ability to act with virtue. In this lies wealth greater than any fortune. And when you free yourself from desire, everything else in life begins to fall into place. Lesson 5. Practice voluntary discomfort. The Stoics believed that true strength is not built in times of ease, but in times of hardship. Yet they also understood something remarkable. You do not need to wait for life to test you. You can train yourself through voluntary discomfort. Seneca practiced this regularly. He would wear coarse clothing, eat simple food, and remind himself, "Is this what I feared?" By exposing himself to discomfort on purpose, he prepared his mind to face real hardship without fear. This lesson may sound strange to our modern ears. Why would anyone willingly embrace discomfort in a world where we spend so much energy avoiding it? We heat our homes in the winter, cool them in the summer, and design our lives to maximize comfort at every turn. And yet the more comfort we chase, the weaker we become. Small inconveniences feel unbearable. Minor setbacks feel like tragedies. The Stoics saw comfort as dangerous because it makes us fragile. Voluntary discomfort reverses this fragility. When you choose hardship in small doses, you toughen your spirit. When you sleep on the floor for a night, you remember that you do not need luxury to rest. When you fast for a day, you realize that hunger is not as frightening as you once thought. When you take a cold shower, you remind yourself that you can endure what is unpleasant. Each of these practices builds resilience. Each is a way of teaching your mind, "I am stronger than my circumstances." Epictetus, who knew true hardship, told his students, "Difficulties show what men are." By voluntarily practicing discomfort, you train yourself to meet difficulties with strength rather than fear. You remind yourself that you can survive with less, and in doing so, you discover freedom. Because what can fortune take from a man who has already trained himself to live with little? Consider how fragile modern society has become. A slow internet connection sparks anger. A delayed flight creates panic. A broken appliance feels like a crisis. But these are not crises. They are small inconveniences. The Stoic practice of voluntary discomfort puts these in perspective. When you have trained yourself to endure hunger, cold, and fatigue, these minor problems no longer disturb you. You become steady, calm, unshaken. Seneca often reflected on the wealth he possessed, but it feared its power over him. That is why he would deliberately live as if he were poor, reminding himself that wealth was not necessary for happiness. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" By doing so, he freed himself from the fear of poverty. He proved to himself that even if fortune turned against him, he could still live well. This practice does not require extremes. You do not need to abandon your home or starve yourself. The point is not to harm yourself, but to remind yourself that you can endure more than you think. Small acts of discomfort are enough. Walk instead of driving, skip a meal, sleep without a blanket, wear the same clothes for several days. Each act is a reminder. Happiness does not depend on comfort, and peace does not depend on luxury. By practicing voluntary discomfort, you also build gratitude. When you return to comfort after choosing discomfort, you appreciate it more deeply. A simple meal tastes like a feast after fasting. A warm bed feels like paradise after a cold night. In this way, discomfort sharpens your sense of gratitude for what you already have. And gratitude is one of the deepest sources of peace. In our modern world, many people live in constant anxiety about losing what they have. They fear losing wealth, status, or possessions. But voluntary discomfort dissolves this fear. When you deliberately give up comfort, you realize that you can live without it. You no longer fear poverty because you have already practiced it. You no longer fear hardship because you have already endured it. This is freedom to live without fear of losing what is not essential. Imagine how powerful you would feel if you knew with certainty that you could endure anything. Imagine facing the possibility of loss not with terror but with calm acceptance. This is the gift of voluntary discomfort. It prepares you for life's storms by reminding you that your happiness is not tied to possessions, luxury, or ease. It is tied to your ability to remain strong no matter what. So take this lesson seriously. Begin small. Choose one act of voluntary discomfort this week. Eat a simple meal of bread and water. Take a walk in the cold without complaining. Sleep without your usual comforts. As you do, remind yourself, this is enough. I can endure this. Each act will strengthen your spirit, and the stronger your spirit becomes, the less the world can shake you. Voluntary discomfort is not punishment. It is training. It is how you prepare your mind for the inevitable hardships of life, and when real adversity comes, as it always does, you will meet it not with fear but with strength. That is the Stoic way. Lesson 4. Guard your time fiercely. Of all the resources in the world, time is the only one that cannot be replaced. You can lose money and earn it again. You can lose possessions and acquire new ones, but every hour, every minute that passes is gone forever. The Stoics understood this with painful clarity. Seneca warned, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. To live well, to focus on yourself and watch everything fall into place, you must learn to guard your time fiercely." Think for a moment about how you spend your days. How many hours slip away in distractions, scrolling through endless feeds, arguing about trivial matters, indulging in gossip, chasing pleasures that vanish as soon as they arrive. If you add them up, you may find that a large part of your life has been given to things that bring no lasting value. The Stoics urged us to wake up to this reality, to stop living as if we had an endless supply of tomorrows, and to treat each day as if it could be our last. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly of the brevity of life. In Meditations, he wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." These words are not meant to depress, but to sharpen focus. They are a call to live intentionally, to stop wasting time on things that do not matter and to dedicate yourself to what is essential. Guarding your time means becoming conscious of how you spend it. It means asking yourself, is this worthy of my limited hours? Is this action aligned with my values, my purpose, my nature? If the answer is no, then you must have the courage to let it go. To say no is not selfishness. It is wisdom. Because every time you say yes to something trivial, you are saying no to something meaningful. Seneca criticized those who guarded their wealth more carefully than their time. He observed that people become furious when a small amount of money is stolen from them, but they allow hours, even years, to be taken without protest. He called this the greatest waste of all. To hand over your life piece by piece to distractions and trivialities while pretending you have an infinite supply. In modern times, this lesson is even more urgent. The world is designed to steal your attention. Technology, entertainment, and advertising compete endlessly for your time. If you are not vigilant, you will wake up one day realizing that much of your life has been consumed by empty distractions. Guarding your time fiercely is not optional. It is essential. This does not mean living in rigidity or denying yourself joy. It means choosing consciously. It means valuing quality over quantity. It means investing time in relationships that matter, in work that fulfills, in study that enlightens, and in moments of quiet reflection that strengthen your soul. It means refusing to waste yourself on resentment, envy, or pursuits that have no meaning. Marcus Aurelius himself faced enormous demands on his time as emperor, yet he carved out moments for writing, reflection, and philosophy. He knew that without these practices, his spirit would wither under the weight of endless duties. If the emperor of Rome could guard his time, then surely we can too. To apply this lesson, begin by observing where your time goes. Keep a journal for a week. Notice how much is spent on distractions, on things outside your control, on empty indulgences. Then ask yourself, what can I cut away? What can I replace with something worthy? Even small adjustments create immense change. Guarding your time also means embracing mortality. Remembering death is not morbid. It is liberating. When you know that your days are limited, you stop postponing what matters. You stop saying, "I'll do it someday," and you start living today. Seneca urged us to live each day as a complete life, so that whenever death comes we are ready because nothing essential has been left undone. So let this lesson take root in you. Stop wasting hours as if they were endless. Start treating your time as the rarest treasure you possess. Focus on what matters most, your character, your virtues, your purpose, and give your hours only to those things. Because in the end, it is not how long you live that matters, but how well you use the time given to you. When you guard your time fiercely, distractions lose their power. Regret fades. Life becomes sharper, fuller, more intentional, and when you focus your time on what truly matters, you will see that everything else begins to fall into place. Lesson 3: Control your thoughts. Epictetus taught a truth so simple and yet so profound that it can reshape an entire life. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. At the very core of this truth is the discipline of controlling your thoughts. The Stoics believe that our minds are the true battleground of life. If you can master your thoughts, no storm can shake you. If you cannot, even the smallest breeze will topple you. Every day, countless impressions bombard us. A harsh word from a stranger, a disappointing message from work, an unexpected problem that interrupts our plans. Immediately, the mind begins to create stories. This is unfair. This is terrible. This ruins everything. And in those thoughts, our suffering multiplies. Yet the Stoics insisted the external event is not the problem. The problem is the judgment we attach to it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Notice the key. Your mind is yours. Your judgments are yours. No one can force you to think in a certain way unless you surrender that power. And so the great task of Stoicism is to reclaim this power, to stop letting your mind run wild, and to train it to serve reason and virtue. Imagine a guard standing at the gates of a city. His duty is to inspect what enters, allowing only what is safe and useful, rejecting what is harmful. In the same way, you must become the guard of your own mind. Do not allow every impression to storm the gates. Do not let every fear, every insult, every temptation take residence inside your thoughts. Examine them first. Ask, is this true? Is this useful? Is this worthy of my peace? If not, let it pass. This practice requires vigilance. Seneca compared uncontrolled thoughts to an enemy within. He warned that most people are miserable not because of the world, but because of the way they think about the world. Fear imagines disasters that never happen. Anger interprets accidents as insults. Envy exaggerates the happiness of others. If you do not master these thoughts, they master you. In modern life, this lesson is more urgent than ever. Social media news and constant notifications flood the mind with impressions. If you absorb them unfiltered, they shape your thoughts and therefore your emotions without your consent. One headline can ruin your peace for an entire day. One comment online can make you doubt your worth, but remember, these are only impressions. You have the power to accept or reject them. You have the power to choose which thoughts will live in your mind. Controlling your thoughts does not mean denying reality. The Stoics did not ask us to pretend that pain or loss does not exist. What they taught is to see reality clearly without exaggeration, without distortion, and without judgment that makes things worse. When pain comes, acknowledge it, but do not add the story. This should not happen to me. When loss comes, acknowledge it, but do not add the thought. This means my life is over. Reality is enough. It does not need the weight of unnecessary judgments. Marcus Aurelius practiced this discipline daily. He would remind himself, if you are pained by any external thing, it is not the thing that disturbs you but your judgment about it. And this you have the power to revoke. This is a reminder to all of us. Your mind is your kingdom. You are free when you choose what thoughts will rule you. So let this lesson take root. Guard your thoughts. When fear rises, question it. When anger surges, pause before you believe it. When envy appears, remind yourself that appearances deceive. Do not be the slave of every thought that crosses your mind. Choose wisely and you'll find peace. And here's my invitation to you. If this lesson resonates, if you feel the truth of it stirring in your mind, I want you to write in the comments the phrase, "Master the mind." By writing these words, you remind yourself that control is possible, that you are not helpless before your thoughts. It is a declaration, a commitment, and a practice. Remember, thoughts shape your reality. Control them and you control your life. Lesson 2. Focus only on what you can control. If there is one principle that defines the entire Stoic way of life, it is this: some things are within our control and some things are not. Epictetus opened his Enchiridion with these words because he believed that forgetting this distinction, is the root of human misery. To live wisely, to live freely, you must learn to focus only on what is within your power and to let go completely of everything else. Consider how much of your daily suffering comes from ignoring this truth. You become anxious about what others think of you, though their opinions are not yours to command. You grow angry at the weather, though no protest can stop the storm. You despair over the passing of time, though no effort can slow its march. All of this energy, all of this pain, wasted on what you cannot control. And while you are consumed by these battles, you neglect the one battlefield that is truly yours. Your own choices, your own thoughts, your own actions. The Stoics taught that freedom is found in narrowing your focus. You do not need to control the world. You need only to control yourself. Your judgments, your intentions, your virtues, these belong entirely to you. No tyrant, no disaster, no misfortune can take them away. Epictetus, though born a slave, was freer in spirit than many emperors because he understood this. His body could be chained, but his will was untouchable. Marcus Aurelius practiced this discipline as emperor. He was surrounded by war, betrayal, and sickness. Every day, forces beyond his command shaped the fate of the empire. Yet in his journal, he reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Notice what he does not say. He does not say, "Change the world and you will find peace." He says, "Change your mind and peace is yours already." In modern life, this lesson is revolutionary. We live in an age of constant distraction where we are invited to pour our energy into things far beyond our reach. The endless churn of news, the gossip of strangers, the opinions of millions online. The more we chase control over these things, the weaker we feel because control never comes. But when you pull your focus back to what is within you, your discipline, your honesty, your effort, you reclaim your strength. This focus is not passive. It does not mean ignoring the world or becoming indifferent to others. It means engaging with the world in the right way. You cannot control how others act, but you can control whether you respond with patience or anger. You cannot control whether fortune brings success or failure, but you can control whether you meet both with dignity. You cannot control how long you live, but you can control how well you live today. That is enough. Seneca warned against wasting our lives in fear of things we cannot command. He wrote, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." How often do you suffer in advance worrying about outcomes you cannot shape? This is the prison of the uncontrolled mind. The Stoic answer is to let go. To say, "This is not mine. This is not under my command." I release it. And with that release, peace begins to return. Think of an archer. His task is to prepare his bow, steady his hand, and aim carefully. Once the arrow is released, the outcome is beyond him. The wind may shift, the target may move, the arrow may break. If he ties his peace to the arrow's flight, he will live in endless anxiety. But if he ties his peace to the act of aiming well, he is free. Life is the same. Do your duty, play your part, aim well, and release the outcome. This discipline is not easy. The mind will always try to grasp what lies beyond its reach. But each time you remind yourself, each time you pull your focus back to your own choices, you grow stronger. Over time, this becomes your nature. You stop wasting energy on the impossible, and you invest everything into the possible, your own virtue. So here's my challenge to you. Begin today. The next time you feel frustration, rise, pause, and ask, "Is this within my control?" If the answer is no, release it. If the answer is yes, act with reason and virtue. This simple question can transform your entire life. And I want you to declare this commitment now. Write in the comments the phrase, "My power is mine." These words are a reminder that your true strength lies not in controlling the world, but in controlling yourself. They are a promise to yourself, a daily practice and a shield against despair. Focus only on what you can control and let go of everything else. In this you will find freedom. In this everything else begins to fall into place. Lesson on live with virtue above all. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies a principle so clear and so powerful that it forms the foundation of everything else. The only true good is virtue and the only true evil is vice. Wealth, health, pleasure, and status may come and go, but they are not in themselves good or bad. They are indifferent. What matters, what defines the quality of a life is how you live. With wisdom, with justice, with courage, and with temperance. This is the Stoic vision of the highest good. Marcus Aurelius, ruler of the largest empire in the world, reminded himself daily that power and glory were meaningless if not used with virtue. He wrote, "Just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter." Imagine an emperor surrounded by wealth, armies, and endless temptations reducing life to such simplicity. Do the right thing. That is enough. Seneca echoed this truth when he wrote, "A good character once established is not easily overthrown." For him, virtue was the anchor that holds us steady through all of life's storms. Without it, we are lost, tossed about by desires, fears, and accidents. With it, we are secure no matter what fortune brings. To live with virtue above all is to recognize that your character is the only possession that truly belongs to you. You may lose health, but you do not lose the choice to act with courage. You may lose wealth, but you do not lose the ability to act with justice. You may lose friends or status, but you do not lose the power to live with wisdom. Everything external can be taken from you. Virtue cannot. In practical terms, the Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues to guide life: wisdom to see the world clearly without illusion, and to act according to reason; justice to give others their due, to live fairly, to treat others as part of the same human family; courage to face fear, pain, and hardship with strength without running away; temperance to control your desires, to live with balance, and to avoid being ruled by excess. These virtues are not abstract ideals. They are daily practices. Each decision is a test. Will you choose wisdom or ignorance, justice or selfishness, courage or cowardice, temperance or indulgence? Over time, these choices shape your character, and your character shapes your destiny. Living with virtue above all also brings freedom. If you believe that wealth or pleasure is the highest good, then you are enslaved to fortune, happy when you have them, miserable when you do not. But if virtue is the highest good, then no loss can ruin you. Fortune may strip away everything external, but it cannot touch your integrity. And a person who lives with integrity is untouchable. In modern life, this lesson is more needed than ever. We live in a world that worships success, status, and possessions, often at the cost of integrity. But look closely. How many wealthy people are restless? How many powerful people are miserable? How many famous people are broken? Without virtue, none of these externals bring peace. But with virtue, even poverty, obscurity, and sickness can be endured with dignity. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, illness, and endless war, yet he never abandoned his commitment to virtue. He reminded himself, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. This simple rule guided the Emperor of Rome, and it can guide you as well. So ask yourself each day, am I living with wisdom? Am I practicing justice? Am I showing courage? Am I exercising temperance? If you can answer yes, then no matter your circumstances, you are living well. That is the Stoic promise. And here is my final invitation to you. If this lesson resonates, if you are ready to make virtue your compass, then write in the comments the phrase virtue first. These 2 words are more than a slogan. They are a declaration of your highest priority. A reminder that character is the foundation of freedom, and a commitment to live as the Stoics lived. Because when you place virtue above all else, everything else in life begins to fall into place. We have traveled together through 10 timeless lessons of Stoic philosophy, and each one has carried us deeper into the heart of a truth the ancients knew well. The world is uncertain, unpredictable, and often harsh, but peace is always within reach if you learn to master yourself. This is the wisdom that sustained Epictetus in slavery, Seneca in political danger, and Marcus Aurelius on the throne of an empire in chaos. And it is the same wisdom that can sustain you today in a world filled with distractions, anxieties, and endless pressures. Think back to where we began with the call to focus on yourself and watch everything else fall into place. This is not selfishness, it is clarity. Because what is the alternative? To spend your life trying to control what cannot be controlled, to anchor your happiness to the shifting winds of fortune, possessions, or the opinions of others. That path leads only to frustration. The Stoics showed us another way, the way of inner strength, of reason, of virtue. The 10th lesson taught us to accept what we cannot control. The 9th taught us to master our reactions. The 8th reminded us to live according to nature. The 7th urged us to embrace adversity as training. The 6th called us to detach from desire. The 5th encouraged us to practice voluntary discomfort. The 4th reminded us to guard our time fiercely. The 3rd commanded us to control our thoughts. The 2nd taught us to focus only on what is within our power. And the 1st placed virtue above all else. Together, these lessons form a complete philosophy of life. Not abstract theories, but practical tools. Tools you can use today in your relationships, in your work, in your struggles. Tools that remind you that peace is not found in changing the world, but in changing yourself. That happiness is not found in chasing pleasure, but in living with virtue. That strength is not the absence of hardship, but the ability to meet hardship with dignity. And so as we close this journey, I want you to pause and reflect. Which lesson spoke to you the most? Was it the call to guard your time, reminding you of the hours you waste and the urgency of living fully? Was it the reminder to detach from desire, showing you the chains that craving has wrapped around your spirit? Was it the discipline of focusing only on what you can control, freeing you from endless anxiety? Or was it the final lesson, the call to live with virtue above all, challenging you to make character your compass? Whatever it was, hold on to it. Do not let it remain as mere words. The Stoics despised philosophy as a game of ideas. They demanded philosophy as a way of life. Marcus Aurelius did not write Meditations to publish a book. He wrote it to train his mind, to live better, to hold himself accountable. Seneca did not write his letters to impress others, but to remind himself and his friends that time is short and virtue is urgent. Epictetus did not speak to entertain but to transform. That same call now comes to you. Ask yourself, what will you do differently tomorrow? Will you catch yourself when desire pulls you forward? And remind yourself that you already have enough. Will you notice when anger surges and choose instead to remain calm? Will you face an obstacle not with despair but with the mindset of training? Will you guard your time as fiercely as you guard your money? Will you put virtue above all else? This is the work of a lifetime. No one becomes a Stoic overnight. Even Marcus Aurelius confessed his failures and his struggles daily. The goal is not perfection but practice. Each day is a new chance to live more wisely, more courageously, more justly, and with more temperance. And with each small step you become freer, stronger, calmer. Think of the kind of person you want to be remembered as. Not the titles, not the possessions, not the fleeting achievements, but the character. Do you want to be remembered as someone ruled by fear, anger, and greed? Or as someone who lived with reason, with dignity, with virtue? The choice is yours, and it is made not in grand gestures, but in the daily discipline of your thoughts and actions. And here is the final challenge I leave with you. Write in the comments the phrase "live with virtue." Let these words be your compass, your reminder, your commitment. Each time you see them, each time you repeat them, you are practicing Stoicism. You are declaring that no matter what fortune brings, your character remains in your control. At Diary Stoic, this is our mission. Not to fill your mind with theories, but to train it for life. To remind you again and again that peace comes from within. That the only true wealth is contentment. That the only true success is integrity. And that the only true power is mastery of yourself. So as we close, carry these lessons with you. Practice them not only in quiet moments, but in the heat of life when emotions rise and challenges appear. Remember that adversity is your training ground. That desire is your chain unless you master it. That time is your most precious treasure. That your thoughts shape your reality. And that virtue is the highest good. Focus on yourself. Guard your mind. Live with reason. Act with justice. Show courage. Practice temperance and trust that when you do, everything else will fall into place. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. This is the Stoic Tide.